So I finally got around to seeing Licorice Pizza in theaters yesterday, and in hindsight, it's a movie I wish I would have watched a lot sooner. And considering it'll most likely be the last film I see in 2021, I wanted to get a review out on it, talk about a lot of the things that worked for me, one or two things that I wasn't crazy about, and then a couple other things that might bother other people, but it worked for me. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Licorice Pizza is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, his first movie in a couple years, and it features a couple relatively unknown actors as our leads. We have Alana Haim, who is more known as a musician, and then we have Cooper Hoffman, who is of course the son of the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Let it rain! Iceman! T! Time out. I'm burning. My lungs are burning.
And this is by every definition a coming-of-age teenage tale, a dramedy, but it's also the most romantically involved plot I've seen from Paul Thomas Anderson since Punch Drunk Love almost 20 years ago. And this film is very much on par with titles like Boogie Nights and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, in the sense that it doesn't really have a clear point A to point B plot line. Like, there's no specific destination this movie's trying to arrive at. It's literally just 2 hours of living with these characters and their hijinks in the 1970s California, where soggy bottom waterbeds and Pinball Palace was all the rage. And for that reason, there might be a certain demographic that this movie doesn't really click for, which I fully understand, but for me personally, a movie like this is kind of a refreshing change of pace if it's handled the right way. And in the case of Licorice Pizza, it totally worked for me. The main reason for that are these characters. Most notably our two leads that just have a ton of charisma and chemistry together. Like, I went into this movie completely blind. I didn't read what it was about or what I was getting into, but by the end of the first scene, I was completely invested. You get some great side characters here with Sean Penn, who plays this drunken adrenaline junkie. You have Bradley Cooper, who is hilarious in this movie.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Do you know who my girlfriend is?
Barbara Streisand?
Barbara Streisand.
Sand.
Sand, yeah, like sands. Like the ocean, like
Barbara
beaches.
Streisand?
No, like Streisand.
Sand.
And then you have an actress whose real name I refuse to say, because as a diehard Sunny in Philadelphia fan, this is the waitress.
He thinks that being a waitress is like what I am, and I'm like, that doesn't define me, dude, okay? Like, I'm saving up to open my own nail salon, and I have come up with all of these.
But as good as these performances were, I just found myself wanting to see more of Alana and Gary. Cooper Hoffman's performance is so damn charming and charismatic. I know his dad would be proud, and I think we have a future star in our hands. As I mentioned before, this movie is a period piece. It's set in California in 1973, and that's something else that I appreciated. You know, we live in a time with this amazing technology and this groundbreaking CGI, but it's also a time where, understandably, this CGI is being utilized to the point where every movie feels larger than life and almost like they're competing with each other on this grand scale. And that's why a movie like this comes along and works so well for someone like me. It's not trying to overwhelm my senses. It's simple, it's easily digestible, it's not about over-the-top action sequences or death-defying stunts. Instead, we have these characters that are selling waterbeds and buying pinball tables and living during the gas crisis, and I'm here for it. And bonus points for not seeing every character stare at a damn smartphone screen.
Really? Really?
Also, this movie is really funny. Like, me and the entire theater were laughing almost non-stop throughout this. And I'm not exaggerating. I think I laughed more during this movie than most of the blockbusters that I've gone to see this year. It just does a really good job of incorporating a few characters that are intentionally over the top, and that's mostly with our cameos. But it balances that with a natural brand of humor that never feels like it's trying too hard to get a laugh. It feels very earned. And in the same vein as the humor, Licorice Pizza is just a masterclass in high-quality writing. Like, the characters just felt so real, they felt like they belonged in the world, And while some of the credit deservedly does need to go to these actors, you need both great acting and great writing to create an enjoyable experience and a world that is truly immersive. Great actors with terrible writing is just the Phantom Menace. And then being a guitarist and just a huge fan of music in general, I just have to mention that the soundtrack for this movie kicks ass. Now it's set in the 70s, so no real surprise there. Yes, music was better back in the day.
On my shoulder. Grab it and slap it, Becky a savage.
This movie features The Doors, David Bowie, Paul McCartney, Chuck Berry, and just so many more great artists. And I know I probably sound like one of those old 3 a.m. infomercials trying to sell you CDs right now, but I'm not lying, this soundtrack is great. And if you call right now, we'll give you 50% off.
But wait! There's more!
Now I have to acknowledge the times we're living in with the PC culture or cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, there are a few things in this movie that are potentially problematic. I can't just ignore those. I didn't have an issue with most of them, but to a wider audience, I could see where there would be issues. The only real problem I had was this pretty big age gap between our two main characters. I don't know why Paul Thomas Anderson chose to make such an uncomfortably wide gap here, with Gary being 15 and Alana being 25.
That's not really cool, man.
Like, dude, couldn't you have made Gary like a senior in high school, like 18, and her like 22 or something? But hey, he's the director. Yeah, so that's the only thing that didn't quite sit right with me. And then there was a few scenes with this accent from John Michael Higgins' character that my theater personally loved. Like, everybody in there was losing their shit. Probably the biggest laughs during the entire movie. But to certain people, they're not going to appreciate this accent or this impression, I guess you would call it. But personally, I just think too many people are watching this movie in a 2021 lens. You know, like, this was 1973. Things were a lot different back then. People could make jokes and 90% of people wouldn't get offended like they do today. But I should probably move on from that subject before I get myself in trouble.
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
This movie did lack some cohesion. Like, the pacing was just kind of boom, 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 boom. And some of the scenes didn't exactly bleed into each other. They were just kind of randomly happening. There were certain times, especially in the middle of the movie, where it felt like they were just making random scenes and throwing them together to make a movie. But overall, this is just a movie with a ton of heart, charm, and charisma. And while admittedly it doesn't have a clearly defined plot, which, like I said, didn't bother me, I could see how it would be an issue for some people. The two leads here just more than make up for that with their on-screen chemistry and their star-making performances. I truly think after seeing this, we're going to be seeing a lot more of Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman going forward. And it just has a story that almost everybody can relate to. More notably with Alana, because Gary's like an actor in this movie, and he has this money to invest in these different projects. But with Alana, she's just this 25-year-old girl who doesn't know what her future looks like. She doesn't know what she's doing with her life. She just wants to get out of her small town and make something of herself. I think that's a message that's going to resonate with a lot of us. I just had a great time with Licorice Pizza, and on my scale, 8 equals great. So that's right where this lands. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And that'll do it for my review of Licorice Pizza. Let me know what you thought of this movie down in the comments below. Did it work for you? Did you have a really good time? Or was it something that was just too scattered, a little all over the place, and didn't have enough cohesive storylines to really connect with you? I've been watching some other reviews who really didn't enjoy this, and then some that absolutely love it. And I have to say, this is one of those rare times that I am in almost complete agreement with the movie critics, because most movie critics really enjoyed this. And I never let their opinions influence my opinion about a movie, but this is one of those times that I actually agreed with them. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing right over here so you don't miss any of my future content going into the year 2022. And if you want to see some more movie reviews, ranking lists, reaction videos, tier lists, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, you can check some of those out right over here. And as always, we will see you in the next one.